Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Hodges, the Results Coach. Welcome to Chattanooga Self-Improvement Meetup, a mastermind group where we listen, ask questions, comment, and learn in an effort to make each person the best version of themselves, thus helping to make the world a better place in which to live. We are a closely connected group of truly authentic people. We are an exemplary illustration of the fact that authenticity is the great connector. I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker today, Marie Cosgrove, author of Greater Fortune, Essential Lessons from the Entrepreneur Who Bought the Company That Fired Her. 12 years ago, Marie Cosgrove was a single mother of 4 children when she was fired from Balance Back because she made too much in commissions. 2 years later, she bought the company that fired her. Nearly a decade later, Balance Back is the world's leader in fall prevention, concussion, brain, and balance disorder diagnostic and treatment devices. And let me tell you, if you've not read her book, I strongly suggest that you go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon and buy it. I predict this will be a New York Times bestseller. It is an absolutely amazing book. Marie, it's all yours. Overcomer, 3 tips to succeed in business, even during challenging times.
Well, thank you, Glenn, for having me. And thank you, everybody, for being on this call and having me as a guest. I appreciate you, and I'm honored to be here with you. Thank you for the plug-in, Glenn, on my book. I appreciate it. And I have it right with me. I'm actually in Houston, Texas, because I'm doing some talks today here.
I have it too.
Great. And I'll share with you a little bit about, before I get into, what brought me from getting fired to buying the company that fired me. A lot of people assume that, oh, she must have been born with a silver spoon in her mouth. And I remember one time I gave this talk and they said, we don't want you to talk about anything else other than how you got fired and bought the company. I said, sure. So I shared that. And then so many people came up after me. And one lady, she said, you must have had a rich daddy, huh? Did he buy the company for you? And a lot of, questions like that and comments like that. And when I'm asked to not share a part of my story, that is very, very personal. And I had kept that a secret. I never wanted anybody to know. I just wanted to grow up, have a normal life, and have nobody know about my past and hope it would stay hidden forever. But one day when someone asked me to share this story again, I had a dream. And in my dream, God said, this is not your story. This is your story. So when someone says, you can't talk about this, I say, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about it. It's just part of my story. I have to share it. So I'm going to get into this, and I'm going to start from the beginning. We all started as babies. A lot of us I know have had childhoods that are not, nobody's had a perfect childhood. But before I was born, my mother was in a car accident. My grandparents were traveling to Mexico to a wedding, and they were driving down a very dangerous road, La Espina del Diablo. But before they got there, the road had been completely straight it was raining and it was dark. And my grandfather had been driving all night. And suddenly there was that sharp curve. They call it the devil's spine. And the Espina del Diablo, the devil's spine, which today is still known as a very dangerous road. And so he went over the curve, and my mother's head was completely crushed. And it was around 24 hours before anybody stopped to provide any aid. Actually, people did stop, but not to provide aid. They stole all of their belongings. And I was on a radio show yesterday, and the host was telling me that's close to that area. And they were traveling from McAllen, Texas to Mexico, and McAllen is right by the border. And he was telling me that road is still very dangerous. And if you have an accident, they will loot you. It's hard to get help down there in that area. So it's still known as La Espina del Diablo. It's a dangerous road to be on. So 24 hours before someone decent passed by to take them to a hospital in Mexico. And when they got there, the doctor said that they were really surprised that she had made it that far. And my grandmother said, "What's wrong?" And the doctor said, "Well, she's got internal bleeding in the brain." And my grandmother said, "Well, you need to do surgery to stop the bleeding in the brain." And the doctor says, "Well, you don't understand. We can't really do surgery. We don't have a specialist here. And by the time someone gets here, she's going to be dead. And if they do surgery and it is successful, she'll just be a vegetable the rest of her life. She is not going to make it." Well, my grandmother insisted. She wouldn't take no for an answer. She had this unquenchable faith. And she insisted they bring in a surgeon. So they brought in the surgeon, and the surgeon did the surgery, and she survived, but she was still in a coma. It was a couple of months that she stayed in the hospital, and the doctors said that there was no sign of recovery, that they were going to pull the plug on her. And my grandmother, again, with her unquenchable faith, she said, "No, I want to bring her back to the States." And I'll just fast forward to when she's in the States, they told her the same thing after about a month. And my grandmother asked just one more day. She said, "Just give me one more day." And that night, she got on her knees and she prayed. And the next morning, she opened her eyes. And she had to learn how to walk, talk, how to do everything all over again. Now, she made it, but she still had permanent brain damage. But at least she was able to go home. And during her recovery, while she was learning to do all these things and getting back into the social life with her friends, she was raped. And the rape resulted in a pregnancy. And the doctor said, "Well, we're going to have to abort because there's no way that she could handle having a child out of wedlock, rape, with all her physical and mental disabilities. She's on a lot of medications, and it's going to cause a lot of physical disabilities on a child. And we don't know, if this child's going to need a lot of special care, and she can't handle that." And my mother, she insisted on keeping me, and she said, "God saved my life. I'm not going to take the life inside of me." And the doctor said, "Well, she doesn't know what she's talking about." So they insisted that I be aborted. And my grandparents said, "No, we'll help her." But the doctors said, "You're too old. You are not going to be able to take care of this child. And with all the special care this child's going to need, it's going to be too difficult." Well, my grandmother said, "It doesn't matter, how this child's born. I'm going to help take care of it. And some way, somehow we'll make it." And she wants to keep the baby, and I support her. So because of that one decision of my grandmother, I'm here today speaking to you. I have 5 children. I have my 4th grandson, well, I have 3 granddaughters and 1 grandson. My very first grandson was just born a couple of weeks ago. So I'm really excited to meet him for the first time. His name's Levi. And we wouldn't be here. And I just thought of even one decision someone made is why you're here. And y'all are so special. You be beyond what you realize. And I can't stress that enough, because so many times as a child growing up, I thought I was a mistake. I thought I shouldn't be here. And my family kept telling me to keep this a secret. And so I'm like, if I have to keep this a secret, that must mean it's so shameful. It's so horrible. Like, I blamed myself, and I thought I shouldn't be here. I'm a burden on people. I have to keep it a secret. And so many secrets I had to hide when I'd go live with an aunt and uncle or go back to live with my grandparents. I had to say, she was my mother. I couldn't say who my real mother was. And then on top of that, I grew up in a small community, so everybody knew anyway. And kids would make fun of me because they would meet my mother at my grandmother's salon where I grew up and spend most of my childhood. And so when my mother would go and have one of her outbursts, and some childhood friend was there, and the next day on, at school, they would say, "Oh, yeah, your mother's crazy. We saw her." And it was embarrassing. So having to deal with all of that when I became an adult, I just said, I'm never going to share this with anybody. I'm going to keep it a secret. And hopefully nobody finds out. And I would even introduce, an aunt of mine as my mother to my friends. And she was okay with it because we were supposed to keep it a secret because of being born with all of this shame, having no dad, having a mom with mental disabilities. But I've let go of that. And I realized the power of God and the miracle in it all. I mean, I shouldn't be here. My whole family wouldn't be here. And you know how unique and how um, special you are. Now, you may be thinking, what does this have to do with business? Well, a lot of times in business, we carry a lot of baggage from our childhood or from our past. And sometimes that impacts us and that impacts how we're able to lead. Also, it is so important to know that it doesn't matter what you've gone through or how shameful of an experience you've gone through or what you've done. That is not who you are today, because you have a choice. On you can't change the past, you can't change what happened to you, you can't change how other people are going to act, how they're going to respond, or what they do, but you can change your decision making process. You can change who you are, and you can decide that you're going to press on regardless of your past. And you do have value. Not only do you have value, but your employees have value. And we know this from, technology. Even our palm prints are so unique that Amazon's using that. You haven't heard, I'm sure you have, on Whole Foods, you're going to use your palm print to buy. In Seattle, they're launching this to buy your produce or your products from Whole Foods. And it's the new Amazon technology. You don't even need a chip. They're just going to use your palm print because it is so unique. No one has one like it. Just like is your facial recognition, but they feel it's more secure because your face, people can take a picture, it could be manipulated. Your thumbprints can be captured now with high-tech cameras, but your palm print's a little bit more hidden and they feel it's a little bit more secure. So now you can just go to Whole Foods if you're in Seattle, use your palm print to make your purchases. That's how unique you are. There is not another you. Now, I grew up in the 70s, 80s, and I apologize. My phone rang and I thought I had put it on do not disturb, but I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And then I started working really young when I was 16, and I would take these leadership classes for work. And one of the things they would always stress is you are replaceable. We can get rid of you like this and you will replace you with somebody else. Let me tell you, you are not replaceable because there is not another you. And because there's not another you, nobody can try to pretend to be you and make the purchases for you with their palm print, because there's only one set that's ever existed, and you will never be replaced. And once you're gone, you're gone, and no one else can replace you. No one else is going to bring you back. You're you. So you have value, and employees are not replaceable. So it is so important to provide good training and to value them, because they are your greatest asset. And so sometimes I believe that something in the past or something that has caused us so much pain, we drag that on and we bring this into the workplace. And sometimes everybody's worked with difficult people. Everybody's worked with someone who just has a bad attitude. And I know, Glenn, you wrote a beautiful story about your horse that's unforgettable. I don't know if you've shared that here yet, but that story about that horse that had that a tack or a nail or something, and when you wrote it, it was in pain, but you didn't know that. And sometimes that's how we are. We carry this pain and we don't know that what the cause of it is. And so maybe the cause of someone's distress may have nothing to do with them just being jerks. It may be something that's caused that. And so when we learn to value people and we learn to know that they have value, we treat everybody with respect regardless of where they come from, and then we learn also to respect us. And so that's why I share my story, because it comes from, something shameful. Rape, no, I mean, rape is a shameful thing, and knowing I have no father, that's how I came into the world, and then having a mother that had mental disabilities and growing up with being bullied and even experiencing that in the workplace, that adds a lot to your character, your personality. And I could have gone in one direction. The direction I was going in when I was a teenager was not good, because I didn't value myself and I didn't respect myself. And I ended up in bad relationships. That's how I ended up as a single mom. I got married very young, and I went through a lot of domestic violence, and I had to escape that. And I ended up as a single mom with 4 kids and no child support, no one to turn back on. And that is what gave me the drive to start my own business and to start working and supporting ourselves. I wouldn't have, had I not gone through that, I may have been comfortable and not started my own business. And I share how I got into the healthcare field because I do not have a degree. And I share that in my book. So when you get the book, you can read all of the details. But I started off in sales and I did very, very well. Like Glenn mentioned when we started, that I was making too much money from commissions. And again, these employers, they had the mindset of you're replaceable. Well, she's getting paid so much money every month because she's selling so many units. She's replaceable. We'll put somebody else in and we'll still pay less and we'll still make the same amount of sales and our company will be more profitable. That was the mindset. So I was surprised when I was told that I was making too much money and they wanted to put me on a salary that was much less than what I was making on commission. And I could not afford that because I was a single mom with 4 kids. I needed to make the income I was making because I was paying for my own marketing. I was doing my own marketing and travel. And when you're a single mom, you've got to travel with your kids. And Glenn, you met my youngest. So they're all adults now. They're all out of the house except my youngest. I've got my youngest with me, so he travels with me everywhere. And he's here with me today. And, it's difficult when you have to travel with kids because that adds on expenses. So when I didn't take that, they said, then you're fired and you can't sell for us. And so I had to start all over again and having nothing and rebuild that. So instead of being bitter, which is another lesson that is so important if you want to have long-term success, is you need to let things go and let things slide. And it's very hard because I know how I felt. I felt like someone had just stabbed me with a knife and like churned it. And it really hurt that they didn't see my value. They didn't see the contributions that I was making into the company, and they thought I was replaceable. So I'm going to skip all the details because I know we don't have much time this morning, but everything is in the book. But I started another company, and then within 2 years, I got a call from the people that had fired me. And they said, are you interested in investing in our company? So I got our accountant. We flew over to the headquarters. And when they did the review, they said that I had done most of the sales. And so I didn't want to invest anymore. I wanted to buy the company. So after about 6 months of negotiations, I bought the company that had fired me. And of course, everybody said I would bankrupt myself, bankrupt the company within 6 months. So all of our competitors didn't expect us to be here, where most of our competitors are now gone. and I'm competing against billion-dollar companies, but a decade later, we are still here. And it just goes to show that had I been bitter, had I not offered forgiveness, and had I filed a lawsuit like everybody was recommending because I was a minority female fired by a males in a male dominated industry, they felt I had a case, and I didn't want to go that route because I had drawn on the lessons my grandfather taught me, that vengeance is the Lord's. We don't worry about those things. And sometimes it hurts. You get hurt when you're in business. If you're in business, you have to be a risk taker. You know that it's hard, it's challenging, you run into difficulties. So it's not easy. But if you remain bitter, or remain angry, and you do not have forgiveness, it is going to be very difficult to have long-term success. Sure, you may have short-term success, beating out your competitors and filing lawsuits and getting into all kinds of difficulties. You're already in a difficulty. The best thing you can do is sometimes you just got to walk away. And so having that ability to forgive in difficult circumstances is going to be a skill that you're going to need to be able to carry you through to have long-term success. And so I would recommend, take a look right now. Is there someone who's done something to you in business or even in your personal life that has been very difficult to overcome? And you may not have thought about it for a while, but every time you think about this person, you think about the situation, it fuels you with anger. Now, you will never forget that situation. There's some things that are hard, you'll never ever forget. And that doesn't mean you can't forgive. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget. Forgiveness just means that you don't want to harm them anymore. You want the best for them. And you do want change for them, because if they change, they're going to become a better person. So that's what you hope for. And you don't want to put harm on them. You are not bitter towards them. Doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you have to continue doing business with that person. If an employee has done something very damaging and very hurtful and has broken the law, doesn't mean you keep that employee. You let that employee go because you don't want to put your other employees in jeopardy, and you don't want to cause more harm to your company, but you don't have that bitterness towards them. You hope they learn their lesson. You hope that they move on and they're successful, but you don't have to keep them as part of your circle, and you don't have to forget what's happened. That's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is just not wanting anything to harm them, and you're not going to try to take vengeance on them. That's what forgiveness is, letting it go. But of course, you'll always remember that situation. So that skill has helped me so much in business. It's carried me this far. And then another skill and there's so many, because in this book, I have, after every chapter, I have lessons, I have strategies. You can take notes, and it has ideas to help you get through some of these tough challenges that you face in business. And there are so many challenges. And, I know going through COVID, that is a huge challenge, because maybe your business has suffered and you have not been able to recover from that, and you don't know how to recover from that. Or maybe COVID has helped your business thrive. Or maybe you came up with a new idea and you have a new business that's thriving during COVID. Whatever your situation, there's strategies in this book that's going to help you take your business to the next level, or help you overcome the challenge you're facing today. And I'll give you one example. There's a lot of challenges I share in my book. And of course, since I wrote it right before COVID and it was just released, I don't share this particular story in here, but COVID did affect our business because we are a very niche business. What we do is we deal primarily with patients that have dizziness, central nervous system disorders, maybe a tumor, concussion, traumatic brain injury in the brain, uh, or any type of central nervous system disorder, and dizziness. So it's a very niche product. So we are in hospitals and clinics that primarily are neurologists or audiology. And during COVID, New Jersey was one of the states that shut down all their businesses, including doctors that were not dealing with COVID. So audiology offices had to shut down, neurology offices had to shut down, and that impacted our business because that is what we deal with. And they just expected their hospitals to be overwhelmed with COVID patients. So anything else was just going to have to wait. That doesn't mean that people were not having car accidents or falling and having accidents or having dizziness, but that was the reality in many states. Oregon, I remember we had a lot of orders come in from Oregon. That was another state that shut down. So we had to put those on hold. And it was almost 9 months to 12 months later that we had to do the installation for those states of people that had placed their orders. So it did impact our business. But one of the things that we did is we had to think outside the box. In our business, we have to comply with FDA regulatory requirements. One of those is called CAPAs, corrective and preventive action. That is something every FDA and every company that has to deal with FDA Class 2, because Class 2 has to do with devices that are by prescription only. The doctor has to refer it. And so that's our device. It's a Class 2. And when you do CAPAs, you have to think about anything that could possibly go wrong, even if everything's perfect. So even if there's nothing wrong with your product or device or, pharmaceutical product, even if there's absolutely nothing wrong, everything is smooth, we have to have every month meetings on what could possibly go wrong. And what can we do if this happens? And what could we improve? Even if you think what you're selling is perfect, you have to still be thinking of what can I do to improve? And that is a very good, I think it's a very good thing that we do this, but I think it's also essential for everybody else, even in your personal life. What can I do today to improve my situation? What can, if this happens, if this goes wrong, how am I going to respond? Or in your own business, whatever business you have, I think it's a very good exercise to do. Now, we are required to do it. And I didn't know this when I bought the company. I didn't do this. And I didn't realize it was a requirement. So when we got audited, now let me go back, because you may be wondering, well, didn't they get audited and your employees know this? FDA, when you do an audit, you don't know what they're going to audit. You don't know what they're going to check for. So they had actually never checked for that. So our quality control person was not doing this part of it. So they didn't even think of doing it. They just, if something went wrong, they fixed it, and they did what they had to do that. And we got written up, and because we were told, you are not writing down these things. And I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong. The product is perfect, and we're the leader in this field. And they said, it doesn't matter. You have to have these down. So now it's an exercise that we do, and we got it corrected. We fixed it. And now we do this every month. We write down our CAPAs, corrective and preventive actions, and we have to brainstorm. And sometimes it's difficult because we're like, we've already done everything you could possibly do to make this the best that it is. But there's always something that you can do to improve your strategies. So that's something we do. And during COVID, of course, this impacted us. So we had to think of, how can we improve our sales strategies? How can we bring new business in? And one of the things that we implemented was helping our doctors help themselves and find new ways to generate revenue in their business. And so we now include, with all of our doctors, we include a marketing plan, we include a business blueprint for success, because of course, if they're successful and they have more patients coming in, they're going to need more equipment. But they have actually now gone into a new area that they had not thought of before. And it's generating them a very good income. It's very lucrative for them. And it's helped us to stay afloat during COVID, because now we also, in helping our customers, they're spreading the word, and by word of mouth, we're getting in more orders from those states that didn't shut down their neurology and audiology offices. So there are a lot of states that never had that shut down for their healthcare in certain specialties. And believe it or not, California is one of them that did not shut down any part of their healthcare. They were all open the entire time. And that has helped us get through. And one of those revenue generating practices that we implemented for our clinicians and helped them to realize that they didn't realize existed was with personal injury with attorneys. So now we're having attorneys that are buying our equipment, and they themselves are placing it in their doctor's offices where they send their patients when they have a car accident. So they send their patient over there to get any type of a diagnostic test to find out if they've had any central nervous system issue during their accident. And so now they're buying the equipment, putting it in their doctor's offices, and doctors are now creating relationships with these attorneys that they didn't have before, because they had never thought of that. In fact, they hated working with attorneys. They hated it so much. They did everything they could to just avoid working with them because they never got paid. But then when I showed them, hey, you can actually help your attorney win their cases when you show them the diagnostic test. And since you have the evidence and you have quantitative data, the attorney is going to win, and they're going to pay you up front. So now the attorneys, when they realize, well, I have access to this data, I'm going to win this case no matter what. Yeah, I'm going to pay this fee up front because I want to make sure that I win the case. So it's a win-win. So now doctors are creating these relationships with these attorneys, and these attorneys are creating relationships with the doctors. So it's helping both of those industries, which they never really saw a relationship that could be built upon that. They never thought outside the box. They just assumed, I'm just going to take in the patients that come to me. So we created this whole plan for them. They're doing really well. It's very lucrative for everyone involved, and it's helping us stay afloat. And that is something that came up out of COVID, some ideas that we have implemented. Now, we've always provided marketing for our customers because it's something that's value added for them. And we've always thought of ways to help not only our customers get our product, but help them be successful with it. So we've always provided marketing support for them. And I have another example. A friend of mine I did a huge event in Texas called Greater. And we had it at an arena, 9,000 people. And then we had the next day, another 15,000 people at a stadium. And so we hired this company, this friend of mine that does the lighting, and she does the big screens in the back and the mics and all of that stuff and the music. And I asked her, how's your business during COVID? Well, she's a very good businesswoman, very, very good, very successful at everything she does. And she said, well, of course, what I love to do, we can't do. We had to let everybody go. And we had to shut down because we have no events. And one of the things she did with her business skill is she thought, well, what can I do? And she looked for a need. And in her community, there was a need for disinfecting businesses. And so now she disinfects small businesses, hospitals, restaurants, things that were open, homes. And has a thriving business, hired a bunch of employees, and contributed back to the community. That has nothing to do with what she did before. So one of the things that you can do is get a list, write down things that you are good for, you are good at. I apologize. Write things down that you are good at. And nobody has to see this list. Nobody has to see it. Nobody has to know. Something you can keep to yourself. Write down a list of what you're good at. And it may be, you may think it's insignificant, but it could actually be very significant, and it can actually generate greater fortune for you. For example, you may be very good at making a pecan pie. And you may be thinking, well, I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not, a great actress or actor. I'm not a great speaker like Les Brown, the #1 motivational speaker in the world. And I want to get into speaking, but I don't have that skill set. Talking about what skill sets you have. Don't compare yourself to anybody else or what other skill sets everybody else has. That is irrelevant, and it doesn't matter, because you have skill sets that are very unique to you, and they have value, and they can have a lot of value to someone else. And it doesn't matter how successful that other person is. So I'll give you an example. Cheesecake Factory. The founder was very good at baking, and she began baking in her home and turned it into a family business. Now the Cheesecake Factory is everywhere. Everywhere you go, you can find a cheese. If you're in a big town, you can find a Cheesecake Factory. And so that skill set of baking was very useful. Like my friend, her skill set of starting businesses and making them profitable was very good, from going from a media company to a company that provides disinfecting services during COVID. And I'm sure after this passes through, she's going to find something else, or maybe open up her business again that she had previously when things start to open up. So there are skill sets that you have that are going to add lots of value, or are adding value, but you may be able to come up with new ones that's going to help you come up with ideas to get out of what you're in right now. That's going to get you greater fortune. And I'm going to add one more. Another thing that you can do is write down not only what you're good at, but ideas that come to you on a service that you can improve, a product you can develop. And it doesn't have to be a great idea. Write down 10 ideas every single day. I guarantee you by the end of 30 days, you're going to have so many ideas that even if you continue this as a practice for 12 months, you're going to have so many ideas. You're going to have at least one of them that you can create a patent for. So every day, right? And it doesn't matter how dumb or silly it is, just any idea, just jot down 10 new ideas every day. Like I said, you don't have to share it with anybody, and you're bound to come up with something that you can improve, or a product or service that can add value to people. And so I hope that this has had added value to you. But to find out more strategies and get more details into some of the things that I shared, and I kind of just went over it very briefly, you can get it at my book. You can go to Amazon.com and you can get the book on Audible. You can get the hardcover, or you can get it on Kindle. And it is available now. And the Audible version, I was really impressed with the actress that did this. That did the audio portion of the book. She was amazing. She did such an amazing job. So if you don't like to read, you can listen to it. Or if you prefer to read, you can get the hardcover. And I hope to be with you again soon. And if you ever, need a speaker, I'm available at mariecosgrove.com. Or if there's anything that I could assist you with, you want to get in touch with me, reach out to me at mariecosgrove.com. Reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm on Twitter. So feel free to reach out to me, and I'm very accessible. I respond to my messages, and anything that I can do for you to serve you, feel free to reach out to me.
Marie, thank you. That is another example of a real value-packed message. And so this is mastermind time. We're getting into the mastermind a little bit later than normal today. Angela, you're a first timer with us. We're glad to have you with us. We've got Marilyn very well represented today. We've got three of you from Maryland. So, and Angela, we'll try to give you a plug for your Instagram program before we end today. But who would like to jump in and maybe share your biggest takeaway from what Marie has shared, or maybe ask Marie a question? It's open for anyone. Yeah, or Ron, it's yours, buddy.
Marie, Ron Cooper, thank you for sharing. You have a story that millions of people need to hear. I sent you a personal message in chat, but Marie, is forgiveness the core attribute that helped you to be who you are today, to avoid what you could have been in the past? Or was there another attribute that you consider to be very core to keep you from being what you could have been to be what you are today?
Oh, that's a great question. And forgiveness is one of them, but there's more. Also faith. Faith is another one. Having that belief that everything's going to be okay. And I think I drew that from my grandmother's faith, because where everybody saw no possibility, she saw possibility. And so I've learned to have that mindset where everybody sees no possibility, I see possibility in the impossibility. And I take that with me to work, because I'll give you an example. You're familiar with the chip shortage, right? It's been all over the news. There's a shortage of chips because we use it in everything, in our cars, our phones. And there's only 5 manufacturing companies that make them. One of them that was just built has 100% of their orders fulfilled for the next 2 years, specifically for Apple. So everybody's like, where are we going to get our chips from? How are we going to get? So that's one problem that we came across, because we need chips to make products. And my staff was like, I don't know what we're going to do. We're stuck. We can't make any more systems, and we only have enough for the next 2 years. And just like this doom and gloom. And I'm looking for the possibility in everything. So having that mind, that unquenchable faith my grandmother had, and looking at possibility and the impossibility, has helped me to become who I am and not who I could have become as well.
Great. I'm not going to dominate, but it's good to know. And I think it's very important that those around us, in the relationships we develop, the impact we can have on people, never minimize any of that. And Marie, we're all about developing relationships, and it sounds as if you had some very formative people in your life with whom you developed and carried forward a very genuine, meaningful relationship.
Absolutely. In my book, I share about Dr. Martin is one person who I developed a great relationship with, and he knew how to value people, because I didn't I'm just a salesperson. I don't have this fancy title. I'm not educated. I don't come from money, humble beginnings. And I'm crying, and I'm like, Dr. Martin, I got fired. What am I going to do? And he's like, this is the best day of your life. And he didn't give me a paycheck. He didn't give me a job. He didn't give me money, but he valued me. And just having that. And I always tell him, because of you, I'm here today. You gave me the courage to start my own business and then buy the company that fired me. And it's these little, you never know who you're going to impact. The one word you say, it doesn't have to be financial. Maybe you don't have the financial means to help somebody, but the way you treat them, having that ability to add value to others, it goes so far, and you have no idea the impact you're making for the world. You are so right. And the importance of building relationships and just building that community, and surrounding yourself with people that value you as well, and value you enough to tell you the things you don't want to hear also, because he chastises me too. So it's become a very good friend of mine, and that's important too.
Ken, you were about to say something.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt Ron there. Go ahead.
Okay, very last comment. Marie, I think one of the very key aspects of your past life is I, Marie, feel you, whoever the you is with whom you're speaking, I feel you accept me. And that was huge.
Amen. Ken,
Thank
what
you.
were you about to say?
Yeah, hi, Marie. I was very privileged to be with her at the Greater, and also have met Dr. Martin, who is an extraordinary man. Uh, Amazing. Marie, one of the things is, as you were talking, that it just struck me, you had the ability to frame I mean, things that people would have crumbled under, but you had the ability to frame it in such a way that what was a devastating problem turned into a defining probability in your life. It was a possibility. And how did you, what was a key for you to take that had the right perspective? I know perspective is a huge thing. It's not what happens to us, it's how we process what happens to us. How did you do that?
So, Ken, I am so happy to see you. Now, Ken, I have to do this plug-in for you because Ken is the best MC ever and a great speaker and a great illusionist. And if you need an MC, you have to have Ken. I can't ever imagine doing an event without you. I'm speaking today. I'm like, I wish they had hired Ken to be the MC because you are the best. You really are. But I don't think they could afford you. They're in a small budget. They couldn't afford you, but you're so good. So good. You made that event. Oh, you made it so special. And so, anyways, I'm glad you're here.
Marie, you might also share with everyone who one of the people was that shared the stage with you.
Oh yes, Nick Vujicic.
I.e. Nick.
Yeah, Nick, and no arms, no legs. If you don't know who he is, he's the he is just amazing and has a beautiful family and a great speaker as well. Yeah, we had him. We had a lot of great speakers, Barbara Allen, and we had people coming in from London speak, a founder of Global Woman. And so it was a great event. Everybody did a wonderful job with that. It's very memorable. In fact, I was on a radio interview and the host remembered the event and was talking about it and how impactful it was. So that was really cool that even, a lot of time has passed, over a year because of COVID, we weren't able to do it last year, that they still remember it. They still remember a lot of the messages in that. That was really good. But going back to Ken's question is how I was able to frame that and change that. A lot of it has to do with my faith in Jesus Christ, because for me, and I know some of you here may not be believers, but this for me was huge because I felt there was no reason for me to be here. I was a mistake. I had no value. I shouldn't even exist. And I remember a counselor telling me, you have value. And, this man, Jesus Christ, he died on the cross for you. And all the things that you've gone through, all the pain that you have experienced, he felt it on that cross so that you can have eternal life and you will no longer ever experience pain, tears. And yes, in this world, this does happen, but he is our creator, and he has paid that price so that you don't have to get what you deserve, or those people don't have to get what they deserve, because he offers forgiveness. He offers eternal life if you simply believe on him. And I thought, I have a father, I have a heavenly father, I have a creator, I do have value. And I started turning to my Bible. I started reading the Gospel of John and just reading it and being in awe that this man died. There's no grave for him. And every historian will tell you, you can't find his grave because he's risen. And so just that thought, and we know, even if you don't believe in God, you know that there is not another you. You may believe that you came from evolution, but you're not being duplicated. You are so unique. Even your heartbeat is unique. It has its own energy signal. One of the devices that I got FDA cleared for tested the heart rate, and no one's is the same. We have scanners that can scan your energy from your heart, and it's different for every single person. Not a single person has a heartbeat like yours. So just your uniqueness, even if you don't believe as I do, just knowing that there's not another you should show you how much value you have. You know how you value, um, I have an old 82 Corvette, and it has a lot of value at old shows because there aren't too many around anymore. So people value antiques, collectibles, because they're unique, or when they have limited editions. There's not even a limited, I mean, you're so limited that there's only one of you, and that shows you just how much value you have. And so that has helped me to understand that even if the person I'm talking to doesn't understand their value, I do. I know they have value. They may not recognize it yet, they may not believe it, but I know they have value. So I'm going to respect that person, even if the world thinks they don't deserve respect, and they may not deserve respect. But that's how much value God has on you. We don't deserve, I mean, I've done some pretty crazy things, and I think, wow, I've been forgiven for that. And every day I'm in awe. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I was forgiven for that. Oh man, I did something, so I can't believe I thought that, or whatever. And just knowing that I have that forgiveness, that if a God has that much concern over us, where he could just destroy us, but instead decided to reach down, forgive us, and help us back up, has helped me. And so that is a huge, 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 huge difference that has made that has been made on my life. And I can't think of anything more significant than that, that has helped me frame things from seeing where everybody sees impossibility, I see possibility. And that's where I draw that from.
Well, Marie, thank you so much. Glenn, thank you for inviting me to this. I really appreciate that. Marie, it's as always, awesome. I have a 10 o'clock meeting. I'm in near Harrison right now, and for the Chattanooga peeps, I've got to get to Hickson. So I'm going to bow out, but thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you
Bye.
for
Thank
joining
you.
us, Ken, and we'll keep you in our prayers, and I'll be in touch with you when it looks like your schedule will work out that you can be our guest speaker.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it.
Thank you. Angela, you're a first timer today. Did any of Marie's message hit home today for you?
Oh my, yes. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet all of you all. I'm so sorry for being late. This is the first time I've ever done a Google meetup. So, but I thank you, Glenn, for inviting me. Yes, I came in late, so I apologize. And I'm just getting familiar with your work, Marie. It's such an honor to be here with you and all of you all. I'm really excited about being here. My name is Angela, and I host Instagram Lives daily, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I do that to bring people in that inspire me, that are just to hear about what they do and also why they do it, but at the same time get to know them a little bit better and get to know the person behind the why. And so I've been doing that for about a year now, since the pandemic, and even before that. But it's just really awesome how, through meeting Glenn and being invited here and being with you all and meeting a whole new group of people. So I'm really excited about that. I love to learn. When I first came in, you started talking about the Kappa, and I just love that, just being able to use that in every area of our life, right? And was it the corrective interaction, preventive actions? Is that what I heard you say? And I love that. And I love your story. I don't know you that well yet. I have not gotten your book yet, but I do plan on getting that. And I just really look forward to being a part of this. I'm excited. And I too, everything you just said about Christ is, I don't know how people can live their life without the hope of Jesus. Obviously, for me, that's, that's the answer for everything. But not everybody is a believer. And it is really, to have your story and the way that you share and you talk about your journey is a bridge to people. And it's beautiful. And so thank you for having me here. And I look forward to seeing you all again.
Thank
And
you.
before you leave, Angela, what time do you go live on Instagram today?
I host Instagram Lives daily at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'd love for you to join me. Also, I'd love to get to know you a little bit better, you personally, hear about your story. I host those lives for you. I host those lives for people that are just starting out in their journey of self-discovery. I hold them also for people that have a mission that they'd like to share on a platform. My platform is not that big. Like I said, I've just been doing this for about a year now, but I have the support of so many amazing people in my community, and it's really for you to share your message, and because it's important, and so it's important for us to share our message so more people can hear that. So
And quickly, your Instagram handle is?
It's IG Live with Angela. IG Live with Angela.
Why don't you put that in the chat? Thank you.
Okay.
I noticed
Thank you.
Casey McVicker, I believe. Have you been with us before, or do you want to unmute and make a comment?
Hi, Glenn. For whatever reason, I got the time wrong today. I'm not in Tennessee. I'm in Indiana, and for whatever reason, I was thinking it was at 9 o'clock my time. So I apologize. And unfortunately, I didn't get to hear all of what Marie had to tell us today. But what I did catch here in the last, 25 minutes, it was really, really impressionable, especially, with today's dates and times and how things are going. But to answer your question, Glenn, yes, I have joined you before. I just got the time wrong today, but thank you.
And this will be recorded. And for those that are not aware of it, I've got a YouTube channel. I call it Chattanooga Self-Improvement Mastermind. So there you'll be able to get the replays of other greats, like we've had Ron Cooper on a couple of times. He's on there, and hopefully I'll have this one posted before the week's out. Sylvia Colvin, are you still with us? Sylvia?
Yes, I'm still here.
You have a comment or a takeaway you'd like to share with us, or maybe ask Marie a question?
Yes, I'm on Barnes and Noble now ordering the book, and can't wait to read it. It's really inspiring to hear her story, and it confirms some of the beliefs I already had, but her example is fantastic of the overcoming power of her faith, and that she learned it from her grandmother, really, to start off, and then the principles that her grandfather taught her. So I'm just fascinated by it. I had heard her speak briefly once before on your program, Glenn. So this has been fantastic. And I can see so many correlations to other things that you've told us and that we've learned. But I can't wait to read the book. Marie, thank you for sharing and being vulnerable to share your life with us. But that has been part of your God story of what he's done in your life. It's just great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You might share with everyone, I believe you were contacted by several people that had read your book, and they have started mastermind studies of your book, and I believe your publisher is putting together a study guide. Could you share a little about that?
That is true. We've got a lot of groups that have started using this as a mastermind. They get together. I know one group has sent me, I share it on my social media. They're using the book for weekly meetings because at the end it's got the strategies, and it's been very helpful for them. And yes, my publisher has created a reader's guide to go with it. And then I had a nurse who mentioned to me that this book had really helped her tremendously. She had gone through some major tragedies, and she had tried anxiety medication pills and it wasn't helping, and she said the book helped her. And so she sent me a message. She says, and then I had another girl say the same thing. They said, you need to start a support group. So we've got a small little group, 24, like I think it's 24 people, maybe more, I don't know, on Facebook. It's called Greater Fortune Readers Group or Reader Support Group, because it draws out a lot. I've had people share with me some struggles they've had in business or struggles they've had in their personal life, that this has really impacted them in such a way that it's helping them see things a little differently, but they wanted to continue the conversation. I've had people ask me to write another book. And so my publishers said, we're going to do the reader's guide. So they're doing the reader's guide, which should be available May 5th, that everybody who's bought the book will have access to, and I'll make it available to everyone. And also, have you had Tina as a guest yet, Glenn? Tina Marie?
I'm sorry?
Have you had Tina Marie from Love Missions as a guest yet?
No, I haven't. In fact, I ran across the notes when you were sharing me about Tina Marie earlier this morning. In fact, about 5 o'clock, I was in the office and I ran across that. But why don't you tell people right quickly about Tina Marie?
Sure. So Glenn's going to have Tina Marie as a guest. Sorry, Glenn. I know you will not regret this. And
Yeah.
she is phenomenal. Tina Marie has a nonprofit called Global Missions, globalmissions.net. So your book that you just purchased, thank you so much, because proceeds from that book are going to go to help her organization. Her organization helps people that are victims of human trafficking. They help rescue, help rehabilitate, and provide life skills, personal and professional skills, to get them back on their feet and help them from going back into human trafficking. Amazing organization. Her story is amazing. She needs a book too. She was human trafficked at the age of 4 years old. Her mother sold her to a man for sex.
I
And
think you said for $25.
for $25. And she was rescued when she got older. And when she was rescued, she became a believer. She, on lovemissions.net, it doesn't really talk about the Christian faith, because a lot of these girls have been hurt by people that claim to be Christian, and a lot of them may not be Christian and get turned off by that. But what she does provide is, she has a cafe, she has a ice cream shop, which I've been to both, amazing. And she has a life center, and she has safe houses internationally where people learn the life skills, work skills, entrepreneurship, how to start their own business. They too are using this book as a mastermind for their management and also the victims, to help them have success after going through all the trauma that they've lived through at being human trafficked. She's just phenomenal. So you'll learn more about her when Glenn has her as a guest on his show. She's going to add so much value to you. But profits from this book go to her organization, so she will she needs as much help and support as she can get at lovemissions.net. So that's why I'm doing that plug-in for her.
And we don't have the date yet, but we're working on a live book signing at Barnes & Noble for Marie. I'll keep you posted as things begin to open up. I believe today, Hamilton County, the no mask, the ruling goes into effect, I believe. Is that correct? Billy, you keep up with everything locally. Isn't it today it goes away?
You may be right. I was thinking it was the end of the week, but you may be right.
I don't know. For some reason I was associating it with before the end of the month, but I may be wrong. Neither here nor there. And Casey McVicker, my apology, I forgot. Yeah, you're with AT&T. I think John Shank's friend. We need to get John here again.
Yeah, John is my friend, and I'm with Fat Pipe Network. So John and I work together all the time. He's a very near and dear friend of mine. We have definitely developed a relationship, while I was at AT&T, and continuing on. He's a lifesaver some days, that's for sure. He's a great guy.
He's a good guy. Tell him I need to get with him. We need to have another bet. I never enjoyed paying off a bet quite so much as what I
did. I love it.
Oh, me. Well, folks, our time has run out. It just gets away so fast when we have someone that just shares from the heart and just adds value on top of value, like Marie. And I think this is a true case of us seeing authenticity is the great connector. I don't believe there's a person that's with us today whose heart wasn't touched in some way. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you. And I do have a book signing at the Barnes and Noble in McAllen, Texas this Saturday. So I'm excited about that.
Well, we'll all fly on down to McAllen.
Yes, just fly to McAllen.
Well, I was referring to the one in Chattanooga.
I know. I know. Yes, I'm sorry.
So it is going to be live in the bookstore at Barnes and Noble in McAllen, Texas.
Yes.
All right. Well, we can use that to leverage here in Chattanooga. And folks, it's been a pleasure. Miss Marcia, right quick. Marcia, have you got something you'd like to say? I've overlooked you right quickly.
That's all right. I had a question for Marie, but I enjoyed
Well, ask it right quick. We started late, so we'll end late.
Well, Marie, I was curious with your incredible story and the grandmother and the generations. What kind of impact has this had on your children?
Well, I think it's been a positive impact. And of course, they went through difficulties being raised by me as a single mom. But now they appreciate it. For example, when they were little, they said, why do we have to travel so much? Can't you be a normal mom? Can you work at McDonald's? That way we don't have to travel so much. And they just had no clue. And now they're like, remember when we went to New York, or we went to, here or San Francisco or wherever? They have all these great memories. But I think that they value life. My son, his wife is, stay-at-home mom, and he has 3 kids, now the newborn. And he calls me. He's like, okay, I got to go, mom. I got to change diapers. I got to, wash the bottles for the baby and all of this stuff. And where do you hear of a man doing that? I'm not saying men don't do that. Of course, men do that, but it's rare that the guy's here washing the bottles, doing everything he can to help his wife. He just has so much value for his children. Just the way I see them, the way they love on their kids, and my daughter and her daughter, she's just, their families are so strong, and they just see the beauty in it all. And so I think that's how it's impacted them in a very positive way. And my daughter, she does everything she can as well to make sure either her husband, my son-in-law, is at home with my granddaughter, or she's at home. And they don't like leaving her. Actually, I don't know the time they've ever left her with anyone to babysit. They're just, always with their daughter. The same thing with my son. He's always been the one to, if his wife has to go do something, he's watching the girls. And now his son, he's really excited for it. And, or his wife, they just value that family. And we don't really see that a lot. We see, I have a lot of people that I work with where they'll drop off their kids somewhere and they'll take off to a trip, and, a neighbor's watching the kids or something like that. And it's very common now where your parents are not involved with it. Of course, there are a lot of parents that are, we know helicopter moms, right? But we also know that there's a lot of kids that are just being raised by daycare centers and things of that nature. So I've seen that my kids have this tremendous love and value for life. They see things from a different lens. And even me today, because back when I was a single mom, I was just trying to survive. And now with my youngest, I see things a little differently.
Thank you, Marie. And, some of you have heard me tell the story. I will not tell it now, but for one of Marie's sons, I wouldn't have met Marie in person. He's a very, very talented musician, as well as a composer. He writes all of his music, and I have never heard anyone play a piano quite like he does. And then I've met her youngest son. I've had dinner with 2 of her sons, and her youngest one is, my goodness, he's going to be a child prodigy. He is absolutely amazing, and now I think you see why. Folks, I love each and every one of you. Our time is up. I just appreciate each of you coming, and I hope that you gain some value today. I think we all see the value of being authentic. And if you want to stick around after I end the recording, it'll be kind of like if we were live, where you get to go up and say hi to the speaker and ask just one more little bitty question. So let me end the recording.